I'm just giving you facts, and the Holy Spirit's not illuminating those facts, what does it profit a man? What does it do for you? Let's stop playing church. Man, we could be out on the, what did you say, down at the beach, Mark? We could be down at a Valentine's Day party. But if in fact, in the midst of our discourse, in the midst of our conversation, the Holy Spirit illumines, then we say, I'm never going to be anywhere but right here at Trinity. Never. Not on Sunday morning. Not on Wednesday night. And we'll get other nights going. Not on Monday night. I'm not going anywhere else. Why? Because somehow, some way, the Holy Spirit illuminates me when I'm at Trinity. That's the only reason to call a guy like me. The only reason. And to have a church. And to have ministry. And to have teaching going on, Brother Lee and Brother Chris, when you get that started. That's the only reason. Cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea, and at the same time untied the ropes that held the rudders. So we see this picture of the things that were holding us back being snipped off. And then we see that they had actually tried to preserve the old ship. You recall? To where they had wrapped ropes around it, locked the cables as tight as they could, and preserved the ship so the ship itself, the old ship, wouldn't break apart. Now, going in a new direction, see the big change here? And it's just in a few verses. The big change now is they're headed in a new direction. They discard the stuff that's been holding them back, and they cut the ropes that were holding the old ship together. Now, I don't exactly know what that means here at this church. I haven't been here long enough. I don't know what the old ropes are. I suspect, like any good Baptist church, that this church was probably a church focused on education. I'm just telling you. Probably it was. I don't know. You can evaluate that. And now I'm coming along and saying, you mean we're not going to be a church with an education hour? No. You know what? I hope that in the not too distant future we have an educational hour. Full-fledged, full-on, hardcore ministry education. Yes. So that we can learn what God expects of us and we can live like God teaches us. Well, for right now, I would say we don't really quite have that. But we do have children's hour while we're in here, the children are somewhere else doing their thing. With Gail and Teresa and I think other volunteers. And we applaud that, and we say that is wonderful that they're doing that. But I can foresee the day when we're going to have a whole educational hour. How does that fit with me telling you I'm not an educator? My job is not to educate. I've never been called to educate. Yet I want an educational hour. And if we had a Sunday school hour, it'd be fun for me to teach from time to time. Because to tell you the truth, I think my giftedness is probably more in teaching than it is in preaching. And I love to teach. But I love others who have that gift of teaching to be employed in their gifted area. And I know there's a number of you guys here that have that gift, and we need to put it to work. The old things that were wrapping the old ship, now cut off. And the things that were holding the ship together, the old ship, have now been loosed. That's where we find ourselves. Let's move on. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. So they're going to go as fast as they can. Why? Because the principle of action has now taken over. They have moved in order, in the order of those four things that we've talked about, to the last thing. They are now to the point that they're moving. Now, they didn't start action until they'd completed, principle 1, 2, 3. Anchor 1, 2, and 3 come first. Then anchor 4. And they didn't, don't get it wrong, because this is laid out for us, I think, in a way that we just read it and we say, okay, I'm smart enough to do that. I'm not smart, but I'm smart enough to do that. So we're going to do the encouraging, the uniting, the renewing. We have to do it, and we have to do it in that order. And at that point, we are ready to go. Now look, the renewing is not going to take us a year. The uniting is not going to take us a year. This church will be active, and we are going to be moving together in this community shortly. In a matter of months, we are going to be doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody within the next couple months, some group, is ready to act. But don't do it too quick. Because why? Because we're going to do things in the order that God's laid out. And then we will be doing it together. All of us. No matter what our age, no matter. We're all going to be doing it. Verse 41, but the ship struck a sandbar and ran aground. You see, right under the surface of the water, there was a sandbar. There was an obstacle that they couldn't see. It was an unforeseen force that they now find themselves running aground on. They're heading toward the new direction, and something that they can't even see sticks them. And they're going so fast now with that one sail hoisted up and the anchor's off and everything that they run into that sandbar so fast that they can't even get the boat back out. It's stuck. And while it's stuck, the Bible records something interesting. It says the bow stuck fast and would not move, and the stern, that's the back part of the boat, was broken to pieces by the pounding of the surface, by pounding of the surf. So we hit it so hard we can't get out. We're stuck. We're not going anywhere. We don't have our anchors out. In fact, we snipped them off. We don't have the ropes tying the boat together. The old boat is going to now perish. But while we're stuck in the front, the back of the boat is being hit by all the storms and the winds and the gales and the waves, and the back of the boat is being beaten up, and now the boat itself, the old boat, is falling apart. What are we going to do? What can we do? The front's stuck. The back used to be safe. But where the back is, now I don't even see it. It's gone. It's been broken to pieces. Let's see what they did. The soldiers planned to kill the prisoners to prevent any of them from swimming away and escaping. So, the soldiers would pay with their lives if somebody escaped. But the centurion, verse 43, wanted to spare Paul's life and kept them, that's the soldiers, from carrying out their plan. Is it true? Is it possible that God is sovereign over the righteous and the unrighteous? Does God only have a plan for those children that have said, I want to be yours? Or does God also have a plan for the unrighteous who sneer at him and say, hey, but God, in your face? Oh, he's got a plan for them. And he's sovereign. And his plan will take them in a direction that they never dreamed they would go. But that's not the point here. The point here is that the centurion, an unbeliever, part of the 274 people that were not righteous, act to spare the life of the righteous. And sometimes God chooses to do that. He chooses to use unrighteous people. Everything that Paul did prior to his conversion on the road to Damascus was used by God after his conversion. Are we to say then that God somehow supernaturally was involved in Paul's life, sitting at the feet of Gamaliel, learning from the most respected scholar of the day, becoming his disciple? That Paul's persecution of the church somehow is going to play itself back out to the church's benefit? That Paul, being the kind of rowdy guy that he was, the kind of fellow that would stab you in the back and hold coats while other people are killing believers, that Paul is, all of that experience in Paul's life is going to be used by God after the point of conversion? Yes, yes, yes. Everything, everything, everything. God is absolutely in control, and everything that's happened in your life has happened for a purpose, and it's according to his purpose.